Hi everyone. So for our third lecture on George Harrison's music, we will focus on music and moral action. Okay, and we will focus on George Harrison's concert for Bangladesh, its historical significance, the intersections of music, politics, and humanitarian action. Okay, and how it kind of set the stage for developing live aid. All right, so that is what we will discuss today. um right, so just give me one moment. Yes, so we are going to look at the concept for Bangladesh, okay, which stands as one of the most historically significant intersections of music, politics, and humanitarian action in the 20th century. Okay, so we'll look at it. Yeah, I'm just going to share the screen. Okay, so organized by George Harrison and Ravi Shankar, the concert took place on August 1st, 1971, at Madison Square Garden in New York City. It was conceived as an urgent response to the humanitarian crisis unfolding in East Pakistan during the Bangladesh Liberation War. Okay, so this groundbreaking event raised over 12 million for refugees and sparked a global conversation about the role of musicians in humanitarian efforts. Okay, by uniting artists such as Bob Dylan and Eric Clapton, it demonstrated the power of music as a tool for social change, setting a precedent for future benefit concerts and igniting debates on moral responsibility in the music industry. I think that is a debate that holds as much significance as it did then as it does now. Uh, what makes the concert for Bangladesh extraordinary is not merely its musical brilliance or star studded lineup, but its political and cultural significance. It marked the first major benefit concert of the modern era, redefining the role of popular musicians as global actors capable of mobilizing awareness, funds, and moral pressure in order to enact in a in order to enact judicious action on part of the oppressive government. It also reflected broader shifts in the relationship between Western popular culture and global humanitarian crisis, particularly in the context of post colonial conflict and Cold War geopolitics. Okay, so first we will look at the global silence surrounding the crisis in East Pakistan in 1971. Okay, so in 1971, East Pakistan experienced one of the most devastating humanitarian crises of the 20th century. Okay, but particularly if you see that in respect of what is going on right now in Palestine, you would see that you know we have all become very we've all become numb, okay, morally numb. Mm, and there's this one critic, American critic, Robert J.C. Young. He teaches at New York University. I forget what was the term that he used specifically to talk about the lack of conversation regarding genocide. He mentioned a particular term. I forget what it was, but yeah. So, I what was it that he said? We have become civilizationally perverse. Okay, you have different kinds of perversions. So just looking at genocide and kind of like, being unable to take a moral stance. Okay, that is a kind of perversion as well. And that is what he highlighted in one of his recent lectures. So, right. Following political tensions between West Pakistan and East Pakistan, the Pakistani military launched a brutal crackdown on March 25th, 1971. The violence resulted in widespread atrocities, including mass killings, displacement, and systematic repression of Bengali civilians. That particular conflict, now known as the Bangladesh Liberation War, led to the displacement of millions. An estimated 10 million refugees fled to neighboring India, creating an enormous humanitarian burden. Okay, camps were overcrowded, disease was rampant, and resources were severely strained. So, despite the scale of the crisis, the international response was limited and slow. Cold War dynamics complicated the situation. The United States, under President Richard Nixon, maintained close ties with Pakistan, while India aligned more closely with the Soviet Union. Okay. These geopolitical considerations muted official responses and limited intervention. Okay. Media coverage existed but struggled to translate into widespread public action. The crisis remained distant for many in the West, perceived as a regional conflict rather than a global humanitarian emergency. And that is the same thing that you find, repeating itself with regards to what is happening in Palestine. Okay, and with regards to what is happening now in Iran. Okay, I'm sure American citizens also find it difficult to process such conflict. Okay, so it's important to highlight what is the role of the common individual. Okay, common individual. What is the role of the ordinary individual under such situations of political crisis? Okay, what should be the individual's role? Um, how does an individual negotiate their own national identity? Okay, especially if your country has gone into war with Iran. Okay, and technically, your philosophy does not technically align with war. Okay, but so that those are very important questions to kind of answer. Um, questions to kind yeah. So basically, that is exactly what the concert gave rise to, a certain kind of awareness, a certain kind of self introspection on part of global citizens to kind of spark a debate about you know the large scale global silence surrounding these issues. Um, Right. So within the context of such political inertia and moral urgency, George Harrison and Ravi Shankar intervened with their their concert. Um, so the immediate catalyst for the concert for Bangladesh was Ravi Shankar, who had deep personal ties to the region. Okay, above and beyond considerations of, how familial ties ought to be made. Because right now, I feel like entirety of the world is just bent on promoting familial ties. You know, But like if you kind of look past considerations of who should promote of who gets to promote familial ties and etc. Because largely that has become a source of holding on to a sense of security. Okay, promoting familial ties within a particular region. Okay, so that is important to highlight particularly. But Ravi Shankar particularly, even though he had connections to that region, he was a global figure. Okay, of in and of his own right. All right, irrespective of his connections to Western musicians, he certainly had his own celebrity. Okay, if you want to say that, and so. And so because of those very entrenched bonds that he had with that particular region, he was profoundly drawn to that cause, and he approached Harrison and his friend, and former students to raise awareness and funds for that particular crisis. So it just goes to show that you need certain people with a certain amount of political conscience, okay, a desire to act conscientiously in order to kind of really in order to kind of really affect actual social change. Okay, social change does not happen with people just limiting themselves their own little um in their own little worlds, okay, hermetic worlds. Neither does it happen in a merely top down manner. Okay, social change does not just happen by one of the courts ruling that um the war in Palestine is wrong. That is not going to stop the war. That is not going to stop prejudice against Muslims in non-Muslim countries. So those are the so you need um people who can kind of affect social change. Okay, you need celebrities who can affect a certain kind of who can draw a certain kind of cultural conscience into motion. Okay, in order to actually affect social and cultural transformation. So that is basically what the concert achieved. All right, with George Harrison and Ravi Shankar coming together, making that concert happen, and also bringing together other artists of global renown. Okay, such as Bob Dylan and Eric Clapton. And more than anything else, it just went to show that celebrities with their with their own kinds of musical interests, with their own kinds of popularity, okay, could actually join together for a common cause. Okay, so that is very, very significant. That kind of marked the importance of that event. Okay, and obviously there was an integration of Eastern and Western music, and Ravi Shankar performed you know, his 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 kind of classical Indian music, and then George Harrison, Eric Clapton, Bob Dylan, Ringo Starr, Billy Preston, Leon Russell, all of them kind of went ahead with their own kinds of performances. The concerts were sold out. The audience response was overwhelmingly positive. More importantly, the event generated significant media coverage, bringing the crisis in Bangladesh into public consciousness. Music functioned as a catalyst for awareness. The emotional power of live performance created a sense of immediacy and empathy that traditional news coverage often failed to achieve. Okay, so that is very significant. Particularly with regards to Palestine, you find that the some Irish bands actually taking a very positive stance towards the oppression that the Palestinians are experiencing. So again, I have mentioned it in our previous course, but again to underline the political function of the songs of the Irish rap band Kneecap. Okay, so they have actually really used their celebrity power in order to kind of generate conversation around the injustice and oppression in Palestine. So that is certainly following in the lineage of mm, following in the footsteps, if you like, of these artists in the 20th century. So it's important to talk about it. So, by drawing attention to the humanitarian crisis, the concert pressured governments and international organizations to respond more actively. Okay, so that is very significant to highlight. Particularly, you find that it's very difficult, it's very difficult to enact any kind of change. Okay, if you are able to prove that a person is unfit mentally, if you're able to prove that a person is unfit mentally, you can subject that person to any kind of violence, and the governments are not going to say anything about it. From my own personal experience, and also something that is, that uh that you find in texts such as Claire Keegan's small things like these. Okay, particularly because all the kinds of justifications that are made for the abuse of that girl. Okay, and how people remain silent. Okay, in abuse of the girl in one of the Magdalen laundries in Ireland. Okay, and particularly um particularly, the entire community remains silent surrounding that kind of abuse. So it's important to kind of take note of the fact that governments cannot function on their own. Okay, Claire Keegan's novel goes to kind of assert that fact. You have the concert by Harrison and Ravi Shankar kind of highlighting that same argument. Kneecap's music also kind of feeding into that um, same kind of rhetoric, if you like, that political change cannot happen in a top down manner, neither can it happen through individuals trying to enact change in their own little social circuits. It just cannot happen in that manner. It has to it requires a certain kind of individual action um which will necessarily galvanize a certain social um, a certain uprising of social conscience. Okay, so that is very significant, and largely that has been the case. If you can prove that somebody is mentally unstable, you can inflict any kind of violence on that particular person, and not the governments are not going to be held culpable. That is precisely the case with Palestine, because Palestinians are seen as somehow, it's that racial kind of discrimination against Palestinians. They're seen as somehow inferior. Okay. Um, in derogatory terms, they are called sand niggers. Okay. So that is the kind of racialization that affects oppressed nations across the world. And you need to have a certain kind of celebrity diplomacy, if you like. You need to have a certain kind of celebrity diplomacy which can bring together large populations, garner a large garner discussions and debates, rather than kind of slamming them with your own political opinion, because that is not what the concert was about. It was about raising awareness of what was going on in Bangladesh at that time, but it wasn't just it wasn't presented as a political um event. Okay, so that is very significant. How does one kind of navigate that kind of a borderline thing? And also very important is to kind of look at fear strategies, because that is also how governments function. One of the reasons why celebrities are unable to speak about what is happening in Palestine, okay, what is happening in Ukraine, they're unable to speak about it precisely because they think that it's going to affect their bank accounts, it's going to affect their own interests. Okay, what they have worked so hard for, somehow speaking about these people is just going to erode any chances of them doing anything meaningful, so they just remain shut. Okay, so these are the kinds of considerations one needs to take into account. And right, I have spoken a lot on this topic, especially because it's a very important topic in light of what is going on. So the concept for Bangladesh actually set a precedent for future events such as Live Aid, okay, establishing a new genre of musical activism. So the concert also contributed to the globalization of musical culture by featuring Indian classical music alongside Western rock. It challenged the dominance of Western musical norms and promoted cross-cultural appreciation. This kind of an approach reflected broader trends in the 1970s as musicians increasingly explored global influences. Okay, Harrison's work played a key role in legitimizing these particular kinds of explorations. Okay, so important to highlight that. And the concert for Bangladesh, as I said, paved the way for numerous benefit concerts and charity initiatives. Events like Live Aid in 1985 drew directly on its model, combining star power with star power. Yeah, like, helium energy. Right. So it combined helium energy with humanitarian goals. These later events reached even larger audiences, but they owe a conceptual debt to Harrison's pioneering effort. The funds raised by the concert were directed towards relief efforts through organizations such as UNICEF. While the logistical challenges were significant, the concert ultimately contributed to humanitarian aid. Okay, so it's important to highlight it. You have, the rock benefit becoming a legitimate political tool later on. Okay, so you have popular musicians coming together to mobilize global awareness. Okay, star power, or as I like to call it, helium energy, becomes a kind of moral, takes on a certain kind of moral authority. You find that the case with the performances with figures such as Bob Dylan as well, who has been central to such Live Aid campaigns later. And given the fact that they belong together in the same band, Beatles, Paul McCartney has also performed at several Live Aid events. Okay, carrying on the Beatles' legacy of speaking up um, you know, for speaking up against unjust wars. Okay, and helped build a continuity between musical activism in the 1970s and musical activism in the 1980s and beyond. So, very important to highlight all of that. And he has been involved later on in humanitarian causes such as campaigns against landmines and, such as the international campaign to ban landmines and all of it, which reflects a broader shift in how musicians can engage politically and use helium energy, helium energy to kind of advocate for justice on public platforms. Right. So that is all that I have to say. Thank you so much for listening and ciao.